What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today, the day one of the NFL Combine has concluded. So, I'm here to bring you the risers and fallers from the defensive line, edge rushers, and linebackers. Again, if you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, join the community. We just breached 10K. If you like mock drafts, I just did one with Mike Renner, so feel free to check that out as well. Let's get right into this. I do have one star and one dud, which we'll describe right before the respective risers and fallers after. So the star today is going to be Marshawn Kneeland. Braden Fiskey was one of the other guys who I originally had until I realized Marshawn Kneeland had an unbelievable day. First off, over 34-inch arms. Incredible. 270 roughly. Awesome. And then this guy randomly runs his 3-cone and shuttle better than Jared Verse and Chop Robinson, which I believe Chop only ran the 3-cone, but it's one of the two. And he is 0.07 seconds faster than Chop Robinson when going head-to-head in an agility drill. Like, wild. And then significantly more athletic by, I believe, over 0.29. Like, it might have been over 0.3 in one of the other drills. So he has been phenomenally athletic. And I'm talking about two of the best edge rushers in the class versus someone who could be considered as a defensive interior or, a 5-tech in a 3-4 scheme. So it's super exciting to see this, just a phenomenal player. He was super smooth in the on-field drills as well. Like, not even just the measurables. When you're looking at the quantifiable or the qualifiable data, he looks awesome. Just maintains his speed well. He had really good balance. This is one of those guys that I'm going to hitch to my wagon to very, very late. I think it's a dark horse move for him to potentially go in the first round, maybe where we thought Darius Robinson might go, but we'll talk about him in a little bit. But since he is in Michigan, I could see somebody like Dan Campbell really loving this guy and taking him earlier than what we think he should be taken. So, love Marshawn Kneeland. He's also agreed to come on the show. That's awesome. Got to give him a shout out there. And we're actually going to be doing a tape study. I'm going to break down Marshawn's tape with Marshawn. And that's going to be available on the brand new Patreon that already has some tape studies that we did live on Discord that YouTube isn't allowing me to put into a membership. So rather than YouTube getting part of my revenue, I'm going to allow Patreon to get even less of a cut. Thank you, Patreon. So feel free to go over there and check that out. Feel free to join the memberships over there. It's all going to be in that link tree below. But Marshawn Kneeland, this is going to be the moment to give him a shout out rather than the rest of the links. He's done a phenomenal job, boosted his stock big time. Next, we got the rest of the risers. So, Latu and Verse, got to put him on here because Latu, he had a little bit of issue in terms of lower power generation on tape. He showed out with some really, really good athleticism, 4.64. He was very happy with that as well. I understand that. Like, 4.64 is a very, very good speed to run at about 260 pounds. Arms a little bit shorter, but we kind of knew that is what it is. But if the medicals all check out, he should be a top 22 pick. I think that, he isn't the most awe-inspiring when you look at his physique. There's some dudes out there that look absolutely super jacked. That's not Latu, but Latu did do a phenomenal job. Got to give him a shout out again. He's a riser because of the fact, like, when I say riser, it's almost a confirmation of where they should be. And there was a lot on the table for them to lose. Like, if Latu ended up not running really good in the 40s, maybe in the 4.7s, maybe even the 4.8s, and just didn't really look fluid in just open space, there's a good reason for him to potentially go out of the first, having, broken his neck damn near there at Washington. So good for Latu. Happy to see that he is completely healthy and kicking some ass. I hope to God the medicals all check out behind the scenes. Jared Verse, apart from the agility drills, which I, could definitely get on him for, he looked really sluggish at the start of this past year. He got up to 260 from 250, and he looked like he was not ready to hold up 260. Drop back down to 254 today, and he looks really, really comfortable. Very explosive, 35-inch vert, sub 4.6 on the 40. Awesome. And he's about, 255. So that's a really good playing weight. It's finally good to see him get to where he needs to be. Makai Wingo was just very fluid in open drills. Just a lot of people talking about how he does just make a difference. About 285 pounds. He has shorter arms, but Kalijah Cansey had significantly shorter. So you know what? We can accept it. He did a phenomenal job today. Speaking of a guy with short arms, I think Braden Fiskey had 31-inch arms. And this dude tests like a monster. I think he was number 6 all time in terms of defensive interior RAS, which is incredible. 4.78 40. That is alone awesome. Over 33-inch vertical for a D tackle is also very commendable. But another guy I skipped Mason Smith. We'll talk about him in a second. But another guy just like Mekhi Wingo that just looked so fluid in open space. I actually wanted to take Mason Smith after, so RIP on the graphics there. Mason Smith, though, really big fan of him. 315 pounds. He actually gives me some Jalen Carter vibes, and he moves very, very well. There's something about him. There's an intangibility that I'm starting to hitch my wagon to Mason Smith, similarly to Marshawn Kneeland. I think Mason Smith's well worth this, taking in the top 100. I would dare say I would take him in the top 75, if not top 64, just because this dude, he was switching positions after injuring himself on like the 8th play last year in like 2022. It was his 8th play into his first game towards ACL. Like he came back, had a position switch, added 15 pounds, and he was finding himself. I don't know why he came out, honestly, but the dude is a really, really talented athlete, and I have a lot of expectation for what Mason Smith could be. Again, a guy who I would take probably in the top 64, if not top 70. I still think he goes top 100. But already talked about Braden Fiske. Mo Kamara, sub 4, 640, which is awesome. First off, this dude has incredible athleticism overall, just extremely bursty, extremely explosive. And then in the on-field drills, another guy who maintains his balance the whole time. I'm a huge fan of that. It's something I put a lot of emphasis on. Cedric Johnson's about that 260 frame that, he still tested through the roof. I still think that the game tape never elevated to where I wanted it to. But Cedric Johnson actually, if I'm not mistaken, at the start of the year was comped as a worse version of Jared Verse. And he tested even better than Jared did. So shout out to Cedric Johnson. I just don't think that he's put up enough tape numbers to really justify much more than a earlier to mid day 3 pick. A Devlin Olafolo, another guy who I got to give a shout out. Testing numbers wise, off the charts, like number 1 in linebackers for vert, unless you want to count Dallas Turner, but I think people are smart enough not to include an edge rusher in the pure linebacker category. But he's about that 236 at 6'1" frame, which is what we expected him to be, which is great. Of course, yes, you could have expected that from the Senior Bowl, but at the same time, there's not massive weight fluctuation, which shows that's kind of his actual playing build. My only issue with the Def one, because he ran in the 4.5s as well, my only issue with him is the fact that I just didn't see him as being super fluid in space in the open field drills, but still one of the best players in terms of coverage this past year. I think he was number 1 in PFF coverage grade. My only issue with him also pertains to the fact that he's had some injury issues over his past, but got to show some love. Here's the dud, and this kills me. I had this guy as my number 5 player on my board, Braylon Trice. He dropped 30 pounds. So first off, that's a red flag to me. Like, you're not comfortable in your own body. I get you're trying to, test and get some good numbers, but I mean, you think that NFL office is going to be like, damn, this guy just renovated his entire body. All of that tape means nothing now. Like, you just totally invalidated the player you were by saying that's not good enough for the NFL. I'm going to shave off 30 pounds. He was 274. Now he's 245. And he had 80 pressures at 274. Like, you have the production. You don't need to change who you are. And then he didn't even test incredibly. It was like 4.72 on his 40-yard dash. And he did not look good in open field drills. Had a lot of trouble with his balance. And it just really bothered me. It really bothered me because he also just didn't look like himself. He looked really thin. He looked uncomfortable. If you told me this guy got the flu or he got TB or some crazy, debilitating disease to where he couldn't eat a lot and he just shed it off that weight, I'd be like, yeah, no, that checks out. Like in Myjai Sanders' situation, got like some crazy stomach bug. He didn't. He purposely shaved off that weight. That bothers the hell out of me. Like, you need to be confident in the player that you are. I'd rather you be 274 and run a 4.9 than be freaking drop 30 pounds, be 245 and run a 4.72. Because the tape that I really loved was him at the weight that he says is not good enough or athletic enough for the NFL. But a team like, I'm just going to throw in the Vikings because they need a lot of edge help. But, that's a team where I could see that being a possibility. I don't really know if I ever need to have a dream fit for the duds. I think I should probably take that out in the future, but might as well toss that in there. Big disappointment. He's dropping exponentially on my board. I don't think he goes on days 1 or 2 because he invalidated everything that a player or that a scouting department would have liked about him by shedding all that weight. So I hate to say it, hate to be a bummer about it, but you got to be a realist. And that's my thing. I'm willing to be that guy who's not really loved because, I might be a little bit on the harsher side, but because I love y'all, I'm willing to be viewed as not as much of a nice guy as my buddies that I brought on my own show. Like Broshmo is extremely positive, and I love him for that. He's not somebody who I think needs to be overly critical because he still gets off what he's trying to say without having to be that way. I'm just more of a blunt person. And you know what? That's okay. But looking at the other fallers, you got Darius Robinson. He ran the 4.9s. I was just really hoping that he'd be like 4.7, 8. Like I was really hoping that he could be athletic enough to be, Aiden Hutchinson, right? At 285, he still has a chance to perform well. I think Joey Bosa ran a 4.86, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just very, very difficult to justify him being a full-time edge rusher. And he became good as an edge rusher. He had 3 years to prove it as defensive interior. He did not. That's what scares me. And I think that pushes him down, especially when you see Marshawn Kneeland, who has, that similar larger profile. Not the same, that is almost a 20-pound difference, but a larger profile and then unbelievably more significant as an athlete. So got to put that there. Xavier Thomas, this is a TBD. He was dealing with cramps, but, running the 4.6s at 244 pounds or 245, not necessarily the best thing in the planet Earth. Of course, his long-range speed wasn't his ability that I loved. It really was his ability to bend, and we didn't really get to see the full version of Xavier Thomas. I just had to throw him in because there weren't really many people who damaged their stock significantly, except the second to last player. We'll get there. Adisa Isaac was very uninspiring. 4.75 or like in the 4.7s for his 40. Just you need to be a little bit more athletic at that size. He's not a 270-pound player, and he's not an overwhelmingly exciting player athletically. And when you're not exciting, the one thing you don't want to do is bore people in that 4.7 range if you're not an absolute dominant threat. Because I love Adisa's IQ. That's my big thing for Adisa. He's very, very smart. But that is a bit of a worrisome attribute, is that he's not even in the 4.6s when his frame suggests he should be in the 4.6s, if not the 4.5s. It should be in the 4.5s. So a little bit underwhelming because Penn State also has set such a high expectation of what we should expect from them that, it is a little bit of a letdown. McKinley Jackson, he's a massive individual, so it's okay for him to be in the 5.2s, but, he just didn't look very comfortable in open space. Didn't test that well. Tavondre Sweat technically didn't either, but 366. I'm just going to he didn't look like a fat ass. And to me, that's like the big test. Like, just to have to be blunt, he didn't look like a fat ass. This dude did haul ass, and, the work ethic's certainly there. Javon Solomon, for the size that he has, I wasn't very impressed. He also, I could tell, didn't really practice very much at the 40, because if he had any trainer that's worth their weight in anything but, peanuts, he would know to keep a much lower profile for a much longer period of time. This dude rose up straight from the get-go, and that to me, I'm overanalyzing maybe. I mean, the numbers themselves, I could just go straight for the numbers and say he didn't test well, but digging a little bit deeper, because I think you deserve that. He just rose up way too quickly, which shows that he did not either practice very much or actually go to a good enough coach. Similar to what I had in terms of reservations from Isaiah McGuire last year. If you don't work your ass off in the offseason, I'm not going to be a supporter of you. I hope he proves me wrong, but, I was really hoping that Javon would do something special. And with all these other edge rushers doing a more adequate job, like I could have technically tossed in Austin Booker into this fallers list because he should have tested a little bit better, but I still saw him more in that short area quickness than in the long area game. But this is the biggest faller, in my opinion, not named Braylon Trice. It's Leonard Taylor. Just uninspiring athleticism. Like, for somebody who has ridiculous talent, good sized arms, I think it's about 34-inch on the arms. He came in at 300. It's not like he's like 315. Like, he came in, oh, nice. You're 300 pounds. So you should be at least able to, run a solid 40. Nope. I'm pretty sure it was like 5'1". Awful. Like, at 300 pounds, dude. I mean, Braden Fiskey's running like 0.3 seconds faster than you. And you're supposed to be a first round quality talent, which now it's a little bit more looked down upon. But, when he already looked out of shape, did not play very many reps, and then just never really got used properly, and then he hasn't worked in the offseason to become a better athlete. I mean, freaking Jordan Davis. Yes, Jordan Davis at like 330 pounds kicked your ass. He would kick your ass even if you took out weight into that equation. He kicked your ass as an athlete, which technically kicked a lot of people's asses. But Jordan Davis was a fat ass who ended up working on himself and being a much better player. You got to give credit for that, and I do. So, one of the things I can't do for Leonard Taylor is say, hey, you worked your tail off. Good for you. He doesn't look like it. He's out of shape. He's not a great athlete. It's very unfortunate because the talent's there. And just the motor and the drive doesn't look like it is. Young Maeda, I mean, I kind of tossed him in, honestly, at the end because he ran like the 4.9s as a linebacker. He actually is quite smooth in the offseason, or in the off-field drills, or on-field drills, excuse me. He's a good linebacker. I just don't think at 4.9 speed you're going to be looked at the NFL as an actual NFL player, maybe a special teamer. Maybe he'll be a little bit thinner as time goes on, even though he's built like an absolute, like, he's built very, very well. It's just not very fast, and the NFL does kind of require speed at this point. So, hate to end it on that note. I should honestly do the followers first, but I think we might switch that for tomorrow. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, showing the love that you always do. See you on the far side.